Call to order the October 25th Communications Committee. Roll call, please.
Chairman Gould,
Here.
Alderman Plufka,
Here.
Blaine Thomas.
Here.
All members present.
Okay, next item is the agenda. On the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Everybody have a chance to look at it, and so if there are no corrections or amendments, the agenda stands approved as distributed. Next order of business is a report of the committee members, committee chair and members. Bola, do you take this first one here, or is this acknowledgement of the? I can take that, okay. Just as a background, that when Mayor Dimmitt on May 2nd decided to re-engage this committee and appointed me as the chair of the committee, and then also appointed Alderman Plufka and resident Blaine Thomas to be members of this committee as well. We're just acknowledging that has been done and is by code meeting the appointments of the committee. Anything else to say on that, Bola?
No, that's great.
We don't need to vote on that or anything like that, right? Okay. Next is a chair report. First, I'm just excited that we're relaunching this committee. From the beginning of my service on the Board of Aldermen, really helping to modernize and improving resident communication has been a goal and priority of mine. And so it's exciting to be able to actually officially start to have some regimen around it. I think continuing to evaluate the communication efforts and methods is critical to increasing resident satisfaction and promoting a stronger sense of connection to our staff, very valuable staff, and the elected officials. I think it's critically important. And it's not to say that we haven't done some really great things as a city and our staff, but certainly, as you all probably know, over the past 5 to 10 years, marketing and communications has evolved tremendously, and even more so with the pandemic. I think that that requires and sort of mandates the city to start to look at things and evolve as well, to really meet the digital transformation that's going on. I want to remind everybody that there isn't one tool. There's a lot of things that we're going to probably talk about and evaluate and look at over the course of our time here on this committee. There's certainly not one tool that's going to be that magic bullet. Diversified approach is going to be important for us to be able to kind of consider things. And there's going to be some things that are big and some things that are kind of small that might make a big impact. I also want to remind everybody that we also have to be mindful of the fact that we need to measure impact of things that we take on, but while also being fiscally responsible with taxpayer money. So the goal of this committee is going to be to guide staff, to help and have staff recommend things to us, and then as we just debate them and discuss them, we'll recommend them to the board for potentially implementation. The three of us are on this board, but certainly we have discussed some potential of adding additional members as needed, and we'll make a determination and ask that the mayor helps to support that if we feel it's necessary. But thank you for stepping up, and I genuinely look forward to working with both of you on this. So that's all my report. Alderman Plufka.
Thank you. I have zero professional expertise when it comes to communication, but I am really excited about the prospect of helping to improve the outward-facing messaging that comes from this city, and also in any way that I can to help facilitate better communication between our residents and City Hall, Brentwood is one of the better run communities in St. Louis County, and we need to do what we can to make sure that not only our residents know this and that they can take advantage of all the different things that our staff already provide, but also that the surrounding communities and the greater metropolitan area know it as well. So I'm very excited.
Absolutely. Thank you. Blaine, any report?
Yeah, no, excited to be here. Excited to give a perspective of a younger resident and a relatively new resident to Brentwood, and excited to collaborate and see what we can come up with.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the city administrator's report. Bola?
Thank you, Alderman Gould. This next item is an opportunity for you all to discuss what the goal and objective of this committee is. What we have provided with the assistance of the city attorney is description narrative that mirrors the other committees as codified in the Brentwood Municipal Code. So let me So there is language presently in the code right now, but what is being proposed would be an amendment to that. And after you all have reviewed it and made edits or like what is presented, then there will be a motion accepting it, and then it would go to the Board of Aldermen for approval, and then we would codify this new language in the code. So it reads presently the amendment that is being proposed. There is hereby established a communications committee, and the communications committee shall have legislative oversight over matters relating to the communication efforts of the city, and shall review all ordinances relating to communication programs, platforms, and policies. The committee shall have such other functions as may be specified by the Board of Aldermen from time to time. So what I read to you is the red line version, and if you're able to follow that, then we would delete all the remaining items that list things, for instance, Brentwood TV, AT&T, the city website, the newsletter. I think this language is robust enough that it would possibly cover all the activities that you would envision, that you would be taking on.
Yeah, and I think it's important to be consistent with the other committees and how we identify those. I do like that, whereas the previous one probably listed out certain platforms and methods, as time evolves, that doesn't really evolve very well.
Right, we're past that.
And we don't know, certainly what might come about in the next few years. That might be a new platform. So I think keeping it broad enough and open enough to accommodate those changes is important. Anybody have any up for any feedback or comments?
My only concern, and it's not really a concern, was having to do with the use of the word shall, that we're required to pass judgment on anything basically related to shall review all ordinances relating to communication programs, platforms, and policies. I like the fact that that's how we would set it up, that any changes, I guess, would have to come through this committee. I guess I don't know. I was just concerned about the use of that word, just in terms of it being mandatory. And there might be instances where...
Yeah, I don't think it's mandatory. I mean, I think just recently, Public Safety Committee, where an item came before the committee and there was direction to staff to punt it to Ways and Means.
Sure.
So if you so desire and you want to punt it to another committee who you think is better suited to take on that, then you can. You don't absolutely have to take on everything that comes before you. I just brought up the code. For example, I'm looking at section 110.280 for public safety. The language in there also says shall. So I think that maybe we don't take it literally.
Sure. Legal world, though, shall is taken literally, though, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So I understand, yeah, given your day job.
Right, and that's really where it's coming from.
Right.
It's just the notion that, my practice is governed by a particular statute, and words like shall and may and things like that have standardized meaning. But as long as everybody's comfortable with the idea that we still have some flexibility even within that shall command, that was my only concern. I like how sweeping it is. I mean, I like
Right.
the fact that it rather than trying to specify and try to predict all the different things that might come about given the way technology changes and the way we communicate changes. I like the fact that it stays more generalized rather than trying to list everything that could be a part of this.
Right, yeah. So do we need the city attorney to weigh in on that concern
wrote
at all?
this.
Or, yeah.
He wrote it?
He wrote it, and if you look at the code, under Public Works Committee, Public Safety Committee,
Okay.
Ways and Means, they all have
All
that
have the same
word, shall,
language.
shall, shall.
Okay. And having language like that doesn't, sometimes with communication efforts, we need to work with the speed of getting in front of something. And if it has to wait until it comes to the committee, is that, I guess the question is making sure that you still have some autonomy to,
If I feel I need it, I'll come before you
Okay.
all, or I'll come to the board, or I'll send an email saying, we need to move quickly,
Okay.
and we will bring this back to the board at the next board meeting, and we've done a lot of that.
or call just kind of a
A
special
special
meeting.
meeting, exactly.
Yeah, I just want to be able to, I don't want to hold the process up in being able to communicate.
Right.
we
Sometimes you
have-
all might say, we have a good feel for this item, so go ahead and take it to the board and, we'll weigh in more. There, I think what that might do is, Mr. Blaine
Yeah,
Thomas is
right.
not a member of the board, so we would need to get a good idea of how you feel about whatever that topic is.
And I know this is new for you to be on a committee or board, so, certainly don't feel obligated that you're jumping in, have lots of insight on this. This is obviously a very simple but important thing for us to nail down and agree on as far as our purpose goes.
And, if you have questions for me or ideas for me, give me a call, send me an email.
Sounds great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So unless there are amendments or concerns, the chair would entertain a motion to direct staff to present this to the Board of Aldermen for consideration and amendment to our code.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Should we do a voice vote or
You could do a voice vote or.
Okay. all those in
All in
favor?
favor.
Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Sorry, Kelly, is that your job?
Good.
I'm taking over.
Motion carries.
Okay, so the next item on city administrator report?
Is the meeting dates and schedule. So we provide the upcoming meeting dates. If this time is agreeable, it would be the fourth Tuesday of each month at 6:30. Yeah, there's no conflict. And Kelly, that's how we ended up at this date, right?
Correct. Correct.
Fourth Tuesday at 6:30. So on the 22nd, I'm showing a Public Safety Committee meeting right now. Is that the one that was 22nd of November?
Is it the 4th?
We were originally set for the Wednesday. We were originally set for Thanksgiving Eve, but that's that's not a date that I think, I don't want to bring staff in, and I don't want to have our committee serving
Yeah,
a
that's the
public safety meeting.
24th. Was it it was the 24th.
Right, and I suggested to move it to the 30th, but that date was problematic, so we're still working on
Right.
what that November date
Okay,
might
so
be.
this on my calendar right now must be outdated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says
We've
on the
always been the
22nd.
fourth Wednesday.
Okay,
So it'll be, for me at least, it'll be communications and then
Right.
public safety.
Okay.
Which is fine. Yeah, I looked at this earlier, these dates all, for me personally, these dates are great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good for me. The 27th though might be a minor conflict with Christmas.
oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
A minor
A
conflict?
minor conflict, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one we may have to just make a concession on and find a different date.
Right.
I mean, in general, I like the idea of having it be a reoccurring fourth kind of,
Right.
every month falling on the same day during the week, as opposed to moving around, so. And then Tuesdays definitely are still my preferred. And then we had talked about 6:30 being a start time. Is that still good for everybody?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go earlier.
What's that? Would you like to consider earlier? I mean, we can try 6.
No, I said unless you want to consider earlier.
If it's
I
better
don't-
for
I don't care.
staff to be at 6, I'm okay with, I have flexibility, so I can make 6.
I can absolutely do 6.
David, is that fine
Yeah,
with you?
6 is fine with me too.
Okay, I mean, we can adjust to 6.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion on that? Yes. Okay.
I move that we change the date or the time of our meetings to 6 PM following the schedule that is contained within the content, the public content of what's before us.
I second that.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Motion carries.
All right, then it moves us on to new business. Bola, are you setting this up as well? Okay.
So Alderman Gould and I have had lots of discussion over I'd say maybe a year. Has it been a
Yeah,
year?
probably.
On what his vision for this committee is. And it covers all the communication platforms that are out there. It also covers, as all of you have articulated earlier, how we communicate with our residents and how our residents feel about the different services that the city offers. So what better way to hear directly from the residents about how they feel about the different services and how we communicate with them than a customer satisfaction survey. Because Alderman Gould had given me heads up prior to the budget process, we have modeled into the fiscal year 2023 budget, recommended budget, $20,000 in our capital fund for a customer satisfaction survey. Also, in the past week, I sent out an email through the listserv to an organization that I'm part of, the Missouri City Management Association, asking all the members across the state if they've done a customer satisfaction survey, what the cost was, what they think about it, and included in here, I got a response from City of Grief Corps. They shared with us their RFP, what it looks like, those who responded, what the cost is, and some of the additional comments that they had. In addition to that, so it takes a while sometimes when you send out these questions through the listserv for everyone to respond. Sometimes, we take our good time. So I heard from City of Grandview, University City, Perryville, Missouri, Platte City. I know Richmond Heights also did this back when I worked there. And the cost range from $10,000 to $25,000 from some of these cities. But you have more current costs based on what City of Grief Corps is providing. They did their RFP, request for proposal, last year. And with inflation and everything, I'm sure that cost has gone up somewhat, but it gives you a good idea that at least we can start off and see if there's agreement that we should issue an RFP, and you all will be involved, because once a provider is selected, then we would bring that individual, there'll be questions, discussion on what is the right number of letters or survey questions to go out. Is it 400? Is it 500? What is statistically significant? And then what is the method? Is it a letter? Is it a phone call? Is it landlines? Most people don't have landlines anymore. So is it cell phone? I think in 2014, when the city did a satisfaction survey, it was cell phones. I think it was cell phones and landlines. It was a combination. I think Alderman Plufka, were you on the board then?
I was, but
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay, so it was handled by Ways and Means. No, it was handled by Public Works Committee, because they were trying to determine, should we renovate the community center?
Oh, okay.
So, and then there's an opportunity to ask specific questions about whatever. Should we continue to provide trash service, or should we contract that out? Any issue that's present in our minds, we can also ask those questions. But this is an opportunity, and it could be used as a roadmap for the Communications Committee once you get that feedback from the residents. For instance, is the city's website sufficient? Are people able to navigate it? Can I find the information that I want in it? When you call City Hall, are you getting answers to your questions, or are you being routed all over the place? So there are a number of questions that we can ask our residents to weigh in on using this tool, but we would need to start off by issuing a request for proposal, and then when those responses come back, staff would do the interview, make a recommendation, kind of like we do some of the other committees, and then they'll come before you, and then we'll really start discussing in deep detail what those questions should be.
Yeah, and some of this comes out, obviously, as we talk about the potential of items that we could take up. I mean, they range from, the website to newsletter to ads that are run in the local newspaper, email communications, any of that stuff. And rather than just sort of picking things off one at a time, trying to figure out how they all fit, I just felt like, when Bola and I talked about this maybe being our first initiative, it would give us some data to at least start putting a strategy around, okay, what do we tackle first? Where do we put our efforts into? Blaine, for you, I mean, we're in a budget cycle right now where we're trying to determine what we're putting funding towards for next year, and then you have to do that every year for the following year. So it's not like we have revenue that's just kind of floating around that can, every time we decide something, let's go ahead and fund that. So there has to be a process, and thankfully we were able to get this meeting in prior to being able to finalize that. And so I think the question is, one, to the committee is, do you agree with this approach, and how that would be our first step? And two, whether or not we believe we're allocating enough funding in the current budget that's being proposed. It's not that it's approved yet, but to give us what we need to lay out that foundation. So I'll open up for comments or questions.
So I'll weigh in. My initial comment is I like the idea of taking a holistic approach. I mean, I think that I don't have a problem with the survey. I have a problem with how much money it is involved, and I think that it's overkill for what I think, at least what I'm looking for. What I'd like to know, I would love if we could do a survey that would get a handle on, or at least get some insight on, how our residents consume information coming out of the city, and how they find access to the various things that we do, whether they find them useful or not useful based on a number of criteria.
So an audit,
Right.
sort of,
How useful is the website for you? What do you use? What do you use the website for? First of all, do you know that we have a website? I mean, questions like that. It would seem to me that there's got to be some. I wish there was a way that we could. I mean, I think if we sat down,
or internal resources to,
yeah, I think if we sat down, we could probably craft a couple of dozen questions, and then the question becomes, well, how do you get that survey, those questions out to people? Do you do it electronically through what is that thing called, SurveyMonkey or whatever, or one